first, just some brief introductions. Habibeh, you want to go first?
Sure. So Habibeh Deyhim here. I am working as a customer success lead at Horizon 3, which is a penetration testing company. You guys have probably met Snehal here before, working for these great leaders. Coming from technical background, worked at Cisco as my first job, developing protocols, a security stack of protocols for Network Academy about more than a decade. And then started switching into IT to get exposure to how different business units work hand in hand with each other. And that was where I fell in love with security, not to mention that, the stack of protocol I was always working at, reverse engineering at Cisco, had to do with security. I was responsible for VPN stack to reverse engineer and built it into the simulation program for Network Academy across the world to use it. And after that, I was in the IT, responsible for infrastructure portfolio and security portfolio. Then decided to switch completely into cybersecurity, manage cybersecurity portfolio for pharmaceutical and semiconductor. And then with the help of a mentor, I switched to the vendor side. Was on the web app security, Privacy, then Imperva, and then head of customer success at Qualys, responsible for marquee customers. And then after that, here I am as customer success lead at Horizon3.ai.
Oh, great. Great stuff. Thanks for being here. And Michael, over to you.
Thanks, Hunter. I'm Mike Makstman. I've been the CISO for the city and county for about 5 years now, 20 years in the industry, all focused on cyber. Right now we have about 50 agencies that I protect. I lead the Office of Cybersecurity, about 40,000 people that work for the city and county in all industries. The city flies planes, of course, from SFO, has one of the largest trauma centers on the West Coast, Zuckerberg General Hospital. We drive trains and buses, repair streets. We have probably more lawyers than some of the big law firms in Los Angeles. Everybody loves to go after San Francisco, and so we stay sharp. Of course, we have public safety. We actually operate a jail, San Bruno Jail. So cybersecurity, in managing cybersecurity risk and basically in so many different industries is a fun experience. Some of my customers have requirements that I would have never come up on my own. If you think about basically not using technology in the jail and yet being able to secure access to, for training iPads for inmates who are taking training courses as part of their rehabilitation. Things like that usually doesn't come up when in a commercial sector. It's a very different experience working for the government. I'm honored, by the trust of almost 1 million San Franciscans and visitors who rely on the services every day. Some of them rely on the services for their day-to-day existence. We provide such critical services that people, if they're not there, people's lives are severely impacted. So it's a big responsibility, and I am honored that I get to wake up every day and work in the city where I live, where my kids and the family live, and just to feel that connection to the place and delivering the service.
Great stuff. Michael, what kind of, the classic question, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is really making sure that the things that people need in their lives, whether it's a family just sold their home and are trying to close the title with the city, right? Or somebody whose father passed away and they need that certificate of death, or somebody who relies on food delivery and their kids might not eat if they don't have the benefits come in. that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night, because that's real impact to people's lives every day. And I just want to make sure that those folks are really know that the city stands behind them.
Great stuff. Thank you for your service. Awesome. Habib, when you think about women in technology, it's a pretty small percentage of women that are out there in general. How can we bolster women in technology more broadly and grow the next generation?
That's a great question. I guess coming from my, my own experience, and in my opinion, the leaders that women are working with is really important. First of all, a recommendation to women who are really love to get into cybersecurity field, they shouldn't be intimidated by not having technical skills. I guess I started my career being technical, but it doesn't mean that what I need tomorrow I have learned it in my past experiences. So just be bold enough to get yourself exposed. That's my recommendation to women in the first place, because interacting with women, I understand, and statistics also show that women normally apply for a job if their skills are having, like 90, the job description is over 90% match with their skills, versus men applying for a job if their technical skills or skills are just about 50-60% match with the job description. So that says it all, how perfectionist women are, how they try to perform at the highest, level at their job. So I guess they deserve to be given more room to learn it all, just like, where the environment I'm in right now. Our motto at Horizon 3 is, learn it all. We don't expect anybody who we onboard or interview for a job, they know it all. As soon as we find out that they have the passion and they're willing to learn, we give them an opportunity. Myself, I'm thankful to be in the environment, excuse me, with the leaders that give me an opportunity to fail and get up again and try again. So that's very important from my perspective, that if as a CISO, as leaders, whatever role that you guys are filling, give women an opportunity to shine. Cybersecurity is a field that you cannot, as all of us know, it cannot get outsourced like any other, technology that we outsource to other country. So you cannot suppress half of the population of the earth, not only United States, are women, right? So we cannot suppress them just because, they're not stepping up, and they're not, they don't believe in themselves. We should push them, we should believe in them, and we should all kind of like let them fail, give them opportunity to grow. As my personal experience, I push myself more because, just like Steve Covey was saying, my manager is, my leader is a true leader. He's a model, and he trusts in us, and he tries to, push us to get the strength out. So I keep pushing myself every day more to collaborate and make sure I have an impact at work. So I guess there is a room for everybody. Just because you don't have the skills, it doesn't mean that you cannot acquire it.
Great stuff.
Yeah, cybersecurity is just very broad.
Great stuff, Habibeh. I know from our earlier panel this morning, Susan, you had some great comments around hiring. Joanna, do you want to give the microphone back to Susan right now? And kind of, I was really impressed with, I think it was your points on diversity and women, right?
Yeah, sure. So since you mentioned hiring, one thing we do is we don't let hiring managers start interviewing anyone until they've done proactive sourcing exclusively on diversity candidates, because in security, especially engineering roles, 95% of all inbound is incredibly not diverse. So if you start the clock with 95% imbalanced, then you're fundamentally starting a biased process. And then I think actually one of my panel leads brought it up, is the psychological safety, right? The easy thing actually is to hire women into an organization. How do you help them feel supported? How do you help them feel safe to fail? How do you help them feel like they can succeed, but they don't believe in themselves. That's the longevity, right? Because like the reason there's less women in leadership is also equally due to the dropout. So you can attract them in an industry. How are you going to keep them till they get to leadership and stay in it?
Great stuff. Thanks. And Susan's with Cloudflare. Mike, back to you. When you think about the size and scale that you're overseeing, it's probably pretty amazing, right? You want to describe that a little bit further?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I worked in, for-profit, of course, commercial sector. I worked for nonprofit, and now I'm working for public sector, and I've never seen such a diverse collection of business lines in any organizations that I work for. I've also been consultant for a while, crisscross the United States, and truly, you wouldn't see a transportation company, a water and electric utility, people who repair, basically do construction all day long, as well as 1,000 arborists who just grow trees and take care of flowers in the same organization. Their needs are very different, right? And that's where security complexity comes in. We also, out of 50 agencies, each of them have a security officer, some of them have security teams, but they vary in size. Some are 10,000 plus people, and others are 100. So the needs are different, right? But people ask me, well, are you paying attention as much to the smaller agencies, the big ones? And I tell them that just the size doesn't mean the risk goes down. Some of the smaller agencies have access to some of the most sensitive data that citizens and our residents entrust San Francisco with. So risk doesn't correlate to size, but of course complexity makes it more difficult to secure the organization.
Interesting. And different. Are you kind of a shared service at a global level for all the agencies?
Yeah, and it's San Francisco is one of those kind of more of a federated environments where a lot of agencies have their own IT staff, sometimes in hundreds, which is pretty large for local government. And we do provide shared services. I think it's been one of my key initiatives to really convert a lot of the agencies into customers of shared service organization. Sometimes I say that I run one of the larger MSSP in the city because I've got all of these agencies, 50 clients, and very diverse population. And truly, we have to operate in this way because I wake up every day and I think to myself, what am I doing today to earn the trust of the agencies? Because if they are not consuming it from me, they've got independent budgets and they can go and buy that in the commercial sector. So that's kind of the mindset that I brought to the city from my work, and as a consultant and in private sector and others, is to say, do I add value today to my customers? How am I making their lives easier today? How am I making them more secure? What am I inspiring them to do? How are I empowering them to do more for their own agency?
Great stuff. And Habibeh, over to you. When you think about technical skills to get into cyber, what do you think about? What comes to mind?
Well, I guess I spoke a little bit about it, but I came from technical background myself, so I grew a career out of being a computer scientist. But I don't think necessarily anybody, and people who want to get into cyber, they need to have the technical skills. At certain roles, I guess you require to have technical understanding, but it's a broad field. I don't think that to fill every single role, you need to have technical skills. That's again, going back to women, or even young men. If they don't have the technical expertise, it shouldn't stop them from learning, and learning cyber, the different verticals in cyber roles. So,
what do you enjoy most about cyber?
Well, I think contributing and having impact. It's what I'm enjoying. Helping the customer to understand what is their attack surface, what is identifying, because it's such a change. The world is constantly changing, and so is the attack surface and the risk that apply to their organization. So being in the role I am, having exposure to their, because what we do is penetration testing, right? So having exposure to what is, what is accessible and exploitable in their environment, and helping them understand how to secure themselves against adversaries, I think, and feeling that I have that impact it's very important for me, and learning and growing myself. So.
And how would you characterize your leadership style?
I'm following, kind of like Steve Covey. I'm reading all his.
Do you know? Covey?
I read the book
nice.
Speed of Trust before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read a couple of books of him, but and a couple other leaders that leaders. For example, Qualys CEO, late CEO. His philosophy was, don't go after skills, go after passion. And I did apply that in my hiring, in my hiring process. Try to find people who are passionate. As part of my interview process was like, if you really if you're telling me you'd like to join this organization, we have a free trial. Go download it and come show me next time how this product do. And instead of asking them theoretical questions and trying to get to the bottom of it, I actually assign a task to them to make sure they actually have the passion. I want them to show me that they have the passion. So that's a philosophy that I go after, and I think when I look at myself, where I come from and how I grow, if I apply my passion, not the skills. So
Great stuff.
skills is you can always learn skills.
Love it. Yeah. Over to you, Mike. In terms of hiring in a tough market, right? Tougher than ever. Finding talent and then grooming them and keeping them engaged.
Yeah, I think it's extremely difficult right now. Sometimes government service comes with a little bit of a perception challenge. Some folks think that, you kind of go into a very laid back, legacy environment. And when I describe to people everything we're doing, how we're innovating, their eyes open up. I've never seen such a innovative organization as the City and County of San Francisco, especially in IT. But we have to kind of overcome already the challenge. And then, I think a lot, we compete for the same talent with a lot of folks in this room and others. We compete with our peers in the local government space, with the state, with the federal government, for the same talent. And it's really challenging, especially because we are very focused on diversity and inclusion. And we do want to bring in more candidates. And it's not just for us, it's not just doing a job, but it's also exposing more of the population to the skill sets and to opportunities. So that's a dual mission for us, not just doing the job, but also to providing employment to folks that might not be in that career or might want to enter a career. We do a lot of work with trying to get and source diverse candidates, and also look a lot of folks who are coming out of, just coming out of school, apprenticeship programs. We've got an amazing partnership and apprenticeship program with the City College. And I think you said it very well, Habibeh, that it's really about passion, right? We're willing to invest in training people up if they want to show up and they learn and they have passion. And that's why I think we do so well with people who are just entering our career. We're open to candidates with very diverse backgrounds, with technical degrees and without technical degrees. There's lots of opportunities, and that's been our we've seen more success there than attracting experienced candidate who want a certain package, who want a certain way, who are used to, like I say, we don't have back rubs and popcorn, right? There's no stock options in government. You show up there to do, if you want to do something with a mission, with a service oriented organization. And we find, honestly, and that's unfortunate reality, is that we find more of that in younger folks and folks that have been around and experienced, who are have a very specific and rigid mindset.
And how do you figure out budgets and like funding levels? I mean, it's got to be difficult, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's budgets are. I've never been in an organization where cybersecurity budget was easy. I mean, maybe I haven't been in the right organizations, right? But I was there 20 years ago when cyber was considered, the back office of IT, which was the back office of business, right? And so I think you have to show value, right? The best story I say is that, when one of our agencies came to me and said, we're able to offer a digital service because of our partnership with you and our feeling that we're actually meeting the requirements of cybersecurity. That's like the first time we're able to actually bring more people in through online. And that's the biggest thing to me. That's something that I can take, the stories that I take, my customers, my agencies speak better on my behalf than I can ever do, right? I can talk about how great we are and what we do, but it's when our agencies talk to and support me with the Mayor's Budget Office, with the Board of Supervisors. That's the best stories. That's the best support that I can possibly have. And not really where the budget comes from, right? When we're supporting actually the services.
Great stuff. Same question for you, Habibeh. Budgeting levels and how to find the right balance.
Just like what Mike mentioned, it's not where you are. I think every individual here or whoever been in charge of cybersecurity or being a CISO, they've always been dealing with shortage of budget because it's been seen as an extension of IT that it's the problem of security is your problem. But nowadays, I think everybody, after all these attacks that we had recently, everybody kind of started to get a sense of cybersecurity. First of all, it's not the problem of IT or the CISO or security department. It's everybody's responsibility and everybody's problem that, from all the way from board down, everybody has to contribute to it. And also, I guess if you show credibility as the head of security and, the credibility behind the policy, behind your recommendation, I guess you should be able to get the budget that you need to secure it. One other thing that I wanted to point out is it's not about the budget alone. You can get the stack of tools that I'm in touch with customers who are having stack of tools available and at their disposal, but the effectiveness of their security program, is it effective? Are they using the tools, the people, the rules that they have effectively? Is it efficient? Does it work right? And how do they know if it's working right? So it's not always about the spending to get more. It's about testing to see if what you have actually works right. Do you have the right risk assessment program in place? Is it comprehensive? Do you continuously go back and check? Because it's a changing world, and risks, attack surface risk that pose to our environment keeps changing as the world changes. So we have gone through COVID. We have seen people started working distributed workforce, and everything started to get pushed to the cloud. So all these are changing the attack surface, right? So we continuously need to come up with a new risk assessment program with incident response. So you don't want to think about on how to secure your environment by when the adversary hits. So going back to your question, I don't want to sidetrack it. If you show credibility by having all those programs and continuous assessment, and you can gain the trust of the board and your executive, you can always convince them to get the right budget. But you also, as someone who's responsible for that security program, you have to make sure everything that you have, your tools, rules, and people are working effectively, hand in hand.
And how do you assess like any kind of given risk profile on any given enterprise? Any thoughts on that?
So the assessment has to come, what is the probability, right? What is the probability of risk? You have to identify all the risks, all the attack surfaces, and understand what is the probability and what is the criticality, right? Once you come up with those and understand those and start securing, imagine it as a house, you secure all the doors. Now you start going to the windows and start kind of like thinking about what else is there that I haven't thought about it. What is the back door? right? So in terms of assessment, I guess continuous assessment, not because I'm coming from this organization, but I would recommend anybody who wants to assess their program, a product like Note Zero that we use, it continuous. It gives you the power, empowers you with having that hacker in your back pocket with like it's a very short runway that you can run that assessment in your environment to make sure everything is covered. So I guess that's a good tool. You can have tools and you can have people to continuously assess if the risk assessment that program that you have actually works right, so you can verify it.
Great, thank you. Mike, same idea, risk profile? It's a tough one, right?
Yeah, it is a tough one. I've been having a lot of conversations about risk. In my previous role, I actually built risk organization within a large healthcare organization. And risk, I think, looks very different to different people. I think the first thing is actually figuring out how to, the language of risk has to be standardized so everybody knows what are you talking about. And I find that dollars is actually the best way to communicate risk to executives. They already understand that, right? I think a lot of in our industry talk about orange and yellow and points and high and medium, and this thing will happen more frequently than others. And that to me gets lost by everybody. That makes no sense. Executives know what ROI is. And when you talk, when they bring in front of like capital budget committee a new project, they don't say like it's a high probability of good success with a moderate chance of rainfall. They talk about dollars and cents. So I think my experience in cyber is adopting the language of dollars and cents really makes a big difference. And then talking about, okay, well, what could happen, right? What's a probable scenario that actually can result in losses, and then how would you deal with that, right? I think another key part of the conversation about risk is that sometimes security says, well, you can never spend enough on security, right? Just keep spending on security, and you always need more tools, or you need to do more. And of course, that doesn't make sense to an experienced business executive because they know risk can be managed in different ways, right? So I think the conversation that I've been most successful in is to say, here's the size of the risk, and here's the recommended spend. And sometimes it's not a lot. And sometimes we say to them, we don't think you should spend anything on this thing, right? Just accept it, right? Or transfer it. And that's a very different conversation. I find that sometimes security folks are not comfortable with that. And that's a big move into the kind of the business space and thinking like your customers.
Habib?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. You can never claim that you're 100% secure. You have to transfer or accept part of it. But again, having the right assessment program in place or assessment tools that they can continuously, go through all the tools, rules, and people that you have, making sure everything is in place, and find what's accessible, what's vulnerable, and what's exploitable in your environment is a big deal. And what would you do if, with all the measures, control measures that you have, if an exploit happens, if compromise happens, right? You don't want to think on the fly. You want to make sure you have sophisticated incident response program in place and accept the rest, just like Mike mentioned,
Well, hey, great job. Habibeh, thank you so much for coming for
having
Horizon 3i to the conference. And Mike, pleasure to meet you. Great to have you here as well. Real honor. Thanks for your service for the city. A big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you, guys. Great job.